Hey everyone, welcome to another repair video. Today we're going to be working on this PlayStation 4 Pro which has been sent in. And this PS4 Pro has been sent in because it's got no display, so it's not outputting any video on the screen. So we're going to take a look, we're going to see what we can do, and we're going to try and get this working again. So while I've got your attention, if you are new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so that you're notified when I release a new video. It makes me look that little bit more popular and I'd really appreciate it. I also stream on Twitch, so there's a link in the video description if you want to check out the Twitch channel. Give me a follow, and if you're feeling really generous and you think I'm looking a little bit skinny and that I could probably eat more, then you might want to link your Amazon Prime account and become a Twitch Prime subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help out the channel. So I would really appreciate that. With that being said, let's take a look at this console, shall we? So as I say, this is the PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's got no display apparently. That's what it says on the booking sheet. So we're going to take a look and we're going to try and, well, we're going to turn it on and we're going to see what goes on. I went to say try because I've just worked on another one and it was supposed to have no display and it had no power, which was pretty annoying. And when I looked inside, the board was completely burnt. So I was just like, nope, not working on you. But let's just see what goes on. It does turn on. So that's something, I suppose. So let's just take a look, see if it comes up on the TV. No signal. I'm going to give it 15-20 seconds or so to see if it boots up. We do have a white light on the console. Nope, no display at all. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just try and turn it off. There we go, so just wait for that second beep. And then I'm going to wait for it to shut down, because even though this is probably going to be a HDMI encoder issue, it might not be, and I don't want to take out the HDMI cable while the console is turned on. I also don't want to shut it down without powering it down properly, because that can damage the hard drive and it can also damage other components on the board. So always shut it down properly, and there we go. So that's turned off. So I'm going to unplug power first and then the HDMI cable. So I'm going to take this apart and just see if I can figure out what's going on. The HDMI issues on this is one of the most common issues that you can come across on pretty much any console. The main reason is because people seem to think that it's okay to just keep unplugging the cable while it's turned on and things like that, which is why I make a point to always shut it down first. You don't want to be damaging the HDMI encoder if it's not that what's causing it. But in terms of causes, it can be one of several things. It can be the hard drive, so the hard drive could cause no display. It can also be the HDMI encoder. That's probably the most common. But it can also be something more simple, like a fuse. It can be the HDMI filters, or it can be the ports. So there's quite a few things which could cause no display. And until we get inside, unfortunately, we don't know what we're dealing with. But hopefully we can sort it out. So I'm going to get this taken apart, and then I'll take it from there. So I will fast forward through this part. It is a fairly lengthy process, taking these things apart. Especially the Pro, there's quite a few screws on it. Not as bad as the PS5, but there's quite a few screws on the PS4 Pro. And it can take a little while to get into it. So I'll fast forward through this bit, it's kind of boring. And I'll pick up the video when I've taken it apart fully. And there we go. So motherboard's out and we are ready to rumble. So first thing I'm going to do is get this absolutely disgusting thermal paste off the board. I don't really want to get it all over my hands. It's greasy and it's horrible. And not even sure what thermal paste that is, to be honest. Never seen a yellow thermal paste. So there's the thermal paste off, which means now I can get to work. So I'm going to take a look and focus my attention over this area here, which is the HDMI encoder. So we'll take a look, see what's going on. So the first inspection is going to be the HDMI port itself, and that looks absolutely fine, to be honest. Doesn't look like there's any issues with the port. Port looks mint. and in fact that port is factory. So that should be a factory port. We've got the foam there, so I'm going to say it's probably the factory port. And if you look at the actual pins, they look mint. So I'm going to give them a nudge anyway, just to make sure. But I would say that's probably the factory port, just given the fact that the foam is on there. So I am going to double check and make sure. But judging by the joints, judging by the foam on the back, I'm going to say it's probably a factory port. And if it's not, whoever did it, kudos. Okay, so the pins all check out fine. I would say there's nothing wrong with that port at all. So next on the inspection list is going to be the HDMI filters. So these here are EMI filters, and they are designed to filter out electromagnetic interference. And these are basically, there's 4 components, and they have 2 filters on each one. So for each differential pair on the data lines. And basically, these can blow, and it can break the circuit. So they can blow open, and it can break the circuit. They can also become short against each other. All it is inside is coils of wire. So they can end up, bit of dry flux. Yeah, that's factory, definitely. Alright, so they can become open circuit, or they can short out across to each other. So I've got the multimeter in continuity mode. That's the mode that beeps when we complete the circuit, and I'm going to test for continuity from top to bottom. We want continuity from top to bottom, but we don't want continuity from left to right. Good. And what you'll notice is, as I move on to the next filter, I'll test from left to right and just make sure. So we'll go top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom. Hello. So we have a short on this differential pair here. So we've got continuity, but then if you look at the actual filter as well, from left to right, those 2 traces should not be shorted out. And same for that one as well. So it looks like we've got some shorted components. Now, here's the question. Is it going to be the chip, or is it going to be the filters? I'm going to guess and say it's probably the chip. And the reason I say that is not because I want to earn more money from the customer by changing the chip rather than just the filters, but because we've got 2 different differential pairs which are shorted out. And the likelihood of that, fairly slim. Possible, but fairly slim. So I'm going to say it's probably the chip which is putting a short on the filters. Let's just check for shorts to ground. Yeah, okay. We definitely have a shorted chip. So I'll use a grain that you can actually see, which is going to be the top here. And if I touch the port, you can hear we've got a beep. So that's a ground point there. And then if you test the filters, the filters are also shorted to ground. There's only one path to ground, and that's through the chip. So there's no path to ground through the port as long as the port is in good condition. So if the port's fine, then the only other path to ground is through the chip itself. So we're going to get the chip removed, and hopefully those shorts are going to go away. It could have taken out the filters, but hopefully it hasn't. So I'll add some flux, and I'm going to remove the chip using hot air, 420 degrees Celsius at 40% airflow. And my hot air has just decided it wants to turn off. Okay, that might have seized itself on, so I'm going to increase the airflow to 60% and the hot air I'm going to increase to 460. It feels like it seized itself on. Finally, that's come off. Sometimes the chips will end up welding themselves to the board, which is always really annoying. So, with that done, I'm going to add some more flux and I'm going to retin these solder joints, or these pads rather. So I'm going to put some fresh leaded solder on. That's going to make it easier to solder a new chip on, and also it's going to reduce the amount of heat that I need to use to solder the chip with. So I'm going to get some leaded solder. I'm using Kester. I have this imported from the States, so if anyone's wondering where I get it from, I buy it off Amazon US and have it imported. So unfortunately I don't have a UK source for it. It is good stuff, but I don't have a UK source for Kester, unfortunately. I had a little blob in the middle, and now I can drop a new chip on. It's not a new chip, it's a used chip off a donor board that had a different fault. So the donor board had a blue light of death. I know that because I took it off a board earlier on today. Okay, I think that just shot into line. I've got a joke for you. What did surface tension say to the chip? Pull yourself together. Anyway, dad jokes. Alright, so add some flux. And then I'm going to show you a little trick here. This is a top secret, so don't tell anyone. But I'm going to show you a way to basically solder this chip really, really easily. And run the iron around the edge of the chip and actually get some nice shiny joints. We'll start with this side because there's some blobs of solder scrolls out. So you want to use a bevel tip. Use some hot air. And just real quick, run the iron across. You don't want to keep the iron there too long. You don't want to keep the hot air there too long because you don't want to flow the chip. So you see how this top side isn't really taking solder? Well, that's because the pads are a little bit too small to be able to get enough surface area off the iron. So I'm going to flip the board around so as I can access it from the bottom. I'm going to take some solder on the tip of the iron, just like that. And then I'm going to add some hot air while I'm attempting to run the iron across. And that's going to give me some nice joints. Check that out. That's top secret. You can't tell anyone, okay? You cannot tell anyone. Just between me and you. I'm going to do the same on this side. Actually, let's try and get some solder to bond to those two left pads. Let's see if it does it. Ah, there we go. Don't need to use hot air that side. Cool. So you want to make sure that all of the joints are nice and even, nice and shiny, and that you can visibly tell that there's solder on them. Let's try the bottom. That side doesn't seem to be taking solder. Let's try again with some fresh solder. Well, there we go. Alright. That was working. Okay, one final side to do. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, so that flux is probably a little bit sticky now. I'm just going to warm it up. And now I'm going to soak it with IPA and a toothbrush to give it a good scrub. Okay, let's just dry this off. Alright, so there's a couple of pads which look like there's not quite enough solder on. I'll have a look at them under the microscope and make sure that we've got some solder on them. Alright, there's enough solder on them. But I would really like some more. So there is solder on them, but just not as much as the rest of them, and I'm not confident in those joints, so I'm going to add some more. Just touch those few little spots up. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to these. I like it to have some nice even joints. That's the stuff right there. There we go. Beautiful. I appear to have knocked a filter. Never mind, I'll fix that in a minute. So before I fix that, I just want to test these two filters again. See if those shorts have gone. They have indeed. But now I need to make sure that the filters are good. Okay, awesome. So I just need to fix this one filter to get it back in line. Just tack it down. And then I'm going to flow it in place. There we go. Okay, let's just test this filter. Just make sure it's good. And just test for shorts to ground on each filter. No shorts to ground. Excellent. So that should be good to go. I'm just inspecting the chip itself, make sure that it's in line. So you guys can't see it very well on the camera. Unfortunately, that's just because light doesn't penetrate well at that zoom level, but I need to be zoomed in that much to be able to see it properly. So all you can see is the fact that we've got shiny joints. And yep, that is absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Alright, so with that done, I can add some fresh thermal paste. And then get this thing put back together. So that should be basically done now, or at least I would imagine it is. The HDMI encoder was definitely bad, so as long as the encoder that I've put on there is good, then theoretically we should be done. We should be good to go. I'm just going to drop the board back in. I'm going to put it back together enough for testing, and that's going to be that. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to give it a full test on camera. Just trying to save a little bit of time. HDMI cable, and let's see if it works. Power's on. There we go. We have a PlayStation logo, and that appears to be working. Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic. So I've got to run a few more tests on this. I've got to make sure that the disk drive works, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, loading a game, all of that sort of stuff. So I've got to make sure that everything works fully because I need to sign off on it. So for the purposes of keeping the video short, that's all I'm going to do in the video because that's the issue that it came in for. Excuse the fireworks. It's getting to that time of night and it's the 4th of November. So if anyone knows anything about the UK, it's that everyone wastes all the money a day early. But that being said, to summarise, this console was sent in because it had no display. And it turned out by testing the EMI filters, it turned out that they were short. So they were shorted together, but it was also shorted to ground. And that only told me one thing, and that is that the encoder was bad. And by replacing that encoder, the part number for that is the MN864729. And by replacing the encoder, this console, as you can see, is displaying again. So that's going to be for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I will always do my best to answer, and I enjoy reading people's comments. I enjoy replying to the comments as well. It gives me something to do in between jobs other than just grab another job and come back in the workshop. If you want to organise your own repair, you can do so by using the website address in the video description. Consolefix.co.uk will take you to my website where you can book in your repair. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoy this type of content, I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and turn on the bell notification so that you're notified whenever I release a video. If you want to support me, if you enjoy what I do and you think that I'm worthy of being supported, then you can do that as well by becoming a Patreon supporter using the link in the video description. You can become a channel member by using the join button below the video, or you can become a Twitch Prime subscriber for free by heading over to Twitch, follow the channel, and then link your Amazon Prime account to Twitch, and you can subscribe to the channel for free. It all helps out the channel. As you can see, it is absolutely freezing right now. So if I just point the camera over here, it is 10 degrees Celsius in this workshop right now. It's cold. So I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and then I'm going to get this fully tested and get it back to the customer. But that's going to be for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye for now.